Hey, welcome back my little Lego Millennium Falcon sets. It's time for season 4 and there's a lot to cover, so let's not waste any more time and get right into it. Ramsey, Bolton plus Reek. So first of all, we need to introduce two new characters. The first one might look a bit familiar as he's basically the discount version of someone we've sorta seen before. Meet Reek. He's kind of the Game of Thrones version of Dobby, but to free him you need something a bit more extreme than a sock. And the other one is Ramsey, who is probably my favorite character right now. He's just mentally ill, completely mentally ill, from turning Tune into his deranged servant who follows every command like it's life or death, to going out and fighting naked while his fortress is literally being raided. Honestly, with that look in his eyes, I wouldn't even be surprised if he gets aroused from the idea of being stabbed. Ramsey is a character I feel like the series desperately needed. Yes, we had crazy people before, like Joffrey, but here's the difference. When Joffrey was at his peak insanity, he had the absolute power to back it up, because he was king. He could do anything he wanted simply because of his status. Ramsey, on the other hand, he started off as a bastard. He was a nobody. And while Joffrey's cruelty came from abusing power and enjoying the suffering that came with it, I genuinely don't think he would have done half of the things he did if he didn't have that power. Ramsey, on the other hand, does it purely because of his love for the game, hunting girls in the forest with his dogs, mentally shredding Tunes' identity into pieces, etc. To him, this isn't a privilege, it's a hobby. And Trick, his masterpiece, is the most loyal servant he could have ever created. He's trained like a dog, he does everything Ramsey commands without hesitation, he straight up refuses to be rescued by his own sister, who risked a lot to save him, and he even misses the perfect chance to kind of avenge Rob. Not technically avenge him, but you get my point. But all this training pays off big time, because Ramsey's efforts lead to Tune infiltrating the Moat Kalin, which results in Ramsey finally getting acknowledged by his father, officially changing his name from Snow to Bolton, ending his time as a bastard. The deserved downfall of the Lannisters. Joffrey's poisoning. Personally, I find Joffrey's poisoning bittersweet. On one hand, I'm happy the sadistic little cockroach finally got what he deserved. No more psychotic tantrums, no more torturing innocent people just because he's bored. But on the other hand, his death doesn't match the weight of everything he did. Yeah, it's tragic and disturbing to watch, but honestly, it was the easy way out. The fact that he got poisoned feels unjust both for us viewers and for the characters in the show. For us, the viewers, his death basically says the only way to deal with Joffrey was to stoop to his level and use some sneaky, disgusting method. He didn't lose in a duel, he wasn't overthrown, he didn't get humiliated or tortured the way he tortured others for years. No, he just choked and died, quick and done, no real payback. And for the characters it's even worse. Arya didn't go through hell just to have him conveniently die before she could do anything. She witnessed Eddard's execution because of him. She carried a trauma for seasons. Sansa suffered mentally and emotionally under him every single day. Robb saw his pregnant wife and unborn child murdered, a chain of events that started because of Joffrey. Catelyn lost her entire family, Bran and Rickon's lives were twisted beyond repair, and all that pain, destruction, trauma, mostly started with Joffrey. And for him to get away with a relatively quick death while others suffered endlessly is disappointing. It feels unfair and honestly, it's nowhere near enough. Cersei's reaction. We've reached the part of the show where Cersei becomes impossible to ignore. She's doing too much filthy, manipulative, slimy nonsense for us to just brush off anymore. After Joffrey takes his final breath, or doesn't I guess, Cersei immediately screams that it was Tyrion. No thinking, no evidence, just instant blame out of pure spite. And as we later learn, she's wrong. But here's the thing, even if she knew who did it, she'd still blame Tyrion, because the situation was the perfect setup to destroy him. I'm not saying the real culprit wouldn't face consequences, but Cersei wanted Tyrion gone, and this was her dream opportunity served on a golden platter. Tyrion's trial. We all pretty much knew how Tyrion's trial was going to go. Everyone turns on him, witness after witness, lying straight to his face, acting like he personally poured poison down Joffrey's throat. They're basically building this fake narrative to drag him to his execution, and Tyrion just stands there, taking it all in, pretty much accepting his fate. But then Shae walks in, probably the only person whose words could actually hurt Tyrion. And she lies too, making the case against him even stronger. That's the moment he snaps. He finally breaks and unleashes everything he's been holding in, roasting the entire courtroom and the whole damn city for how they've been treating him his entire life. And then he demands the same thing that saved him in the Eyrie, a trial by combat. The room freezes, people are shocked, some are terrified. Tyrion just challenged the system again, but this time the stakes are even higher. Bronn saved him once, maybe he'll do it again, right? Yeah, no. Bronn refuses, because the opponent isn't some random knight. It's the Mountain. With Jaime out of the question because of his hand, and Bronn choosing survival over loyalty, Tyrion is left with nobody, until a miracle walks into his cell. Oberyn Martell. He tells Tyrion he'll be his champion and he'll fight the Mountain. And conveniently for Oberyn, this isn't just about helping Tyrion, this is his life-awaited chance to take revenge on the man who murdered his sister and her children. Oberyn versus the Mountain. Pride and revenge are both huge themes in Game of Thrones, but in this fight, for Oberyn, it wasn't a mix of both, it was pure pride. Some people might say Oberyn fought to avenge his sister. No, he didn't. If this was about true revenge, the kind that comes from pain, loss and justice, he would have fought differently. He would have been focused, precise and ruthless. Instead, Oberyn came into the arena like he was putting on a performance to prove a point. He didn't come to avenge his sister. He came to prove to himself and to everyone watching that if he had been there years ago, he would have stopped the Mountain and his sister would still be alive. It wasn't about her, it was about his ego. Even during the fight, Oberyn wasn't serious. He was showboating, dancing around, taunting, dragging it out like he wanted Applause? But the BM goes wrong. The mountain grabs him, flips the entire momentum and turns Oberyn's revenge into a brutal and horrifying defeat. His pride didn't just cost him the win, it erased the revenge completely. Oberyn didn't fight for his sister, he didn't fight for Tyrion, he didn't even fight to humiliate the Lannisters. He fought for himself, for his pride, using revenge as a pretty excuse to justify his ego. Tyrion's escape. After Oberyn's defeat, Tyrion's fate is basically sealed. He's waiting for his execution. But of course, his destiny isn't set in stone, as Jaime and Varys pull a quick 1-2 on the Lannisters, get him out of trouble and set him on his way to safety. But Tyrion isn't just running away from King's Landing. Nah, he's taking revenge on the two people who hurt him the most during this whole nightmare. First up Shae, he chokes her out cold. Then Tywin finds him on the Iron Throne, quickscopes him twice. Boom, justice served. After that, he's officially labeled as luggage and escapes with Varys. From here on out, it's the vast beautiful sea and whatever madness awaits for them beyond it. The only missing piece. So let's do a quick recap. Joffrey got poisoned, Tywin got killed, Jaime lost his fighting hand, Tyrion got exiled and was on his way to execution. But there's one piece missing. Cersei, the only one who didn't get punished directly. Yeah, she lost her son and had all that indirect stuff happen to her, but in case you have forgotten, Jaime lost his son as well, and he got punished directly by losing his hand. So I'm ending this segment of the Lannisters' downfall by saying this. I just know she's going to get what she deserves, and when that happens, it's going to be brutal. Sweet but brutal. Starks' remontada. Lannister stocks are down, Stark stocks are up. So let's start with the fact that, as far as we know, Rickon is safe. Let's continue with Arya. After Sandor's failed attempt to return Arya to her family for some GoT, he decides maybe her aunt would want her, and off to the Eyrie they go. On the road, it feels like they're getting a little closer, but the truth is, Arya's opinion of Sandor doesn't really change. Even when he tries, if not to be good, then at least bearable, she sees right through him. He steals from people in need, even after they helped them and fed them. And let's be real, even if he wanted to act like a good person, he physically can't anymore, as he's done too much bad stuff in the past. Being bad towards people has basically become second nature to him. Anyways, they reach the Eyrie. But due to the circumstances there, Sandor is unable to give Arya to her aunt, and they stay on the road, eventually stumbling upon Brienne and Podrick. Of course, that leads to a brutal fight between Sandor and Brienne, and yeah, Brienne comes on top. But here's the moment I really liked. In the final scene, Arya gives him exactly what he's been giving people his whole life. She takes his silver and just leaves. No explanation, no words, nothing. Gone. Just like that. But then I started wondering, okay, where is Arya even going? She's tough, sure, but she's still a kid, with basically no family left. Turns out, luck is on her side, she finds someone she can give her a magical coin to, Valar Morghulis, and off to Bravos we go. Baelish investing in Bitcoin. This one is kinda tricky as Sansa is technically still under someone else's control, and I believe it's not someone who has her best interest in mind. But it's way better than being in King's Landing. Can you imagine what Cersei would have done if Sansa was still in reach? Baelish decides to take the risk. He brings her to the Eyrie, yeah, that Eyrie, with the people I hoped I'd never see again. Long story short, Baelish has an affair with Lysa and they even get married soon after. But Lysa is unhappy. She gets jealous of Sansa and pressures her to admit she's trying to seduce Baelish, which she isn't. She is just a child. The real problem? Baelish makes a move on Sansa. Lysa sees it and later she confronts Sansa, with the full intention of sending her on an awesome magical journey through the Moon Door. Fortunately, Baelish saves the day. He calms Lysa down and then pushes her right through the Moon Door, solidifying his choice. Of course, everyone notices Lysa's disappearance, and Baelish gets called to the Vales' council. Things go badly, the council suspect him, but then Sansa shows up and she lies for him, and gets him out of trouble. Yeah, do you know what? She deserves everything that's happened to her, and more. I simply cannot defend her anymore. Brance's party reached their goal. As expected, Brance's journey isn't exactly a vacation. After heading north of the wall to follow the three-eyed Raven, they get captured at Craster's Keep by the same deranged members of the Night's Watch, who killed Mormont, and did that massacre we talked about before. Fortunately enough, Brance's capture lines up with Jon Snow's revenge mission, and with a few tricks and some close calls, the party escapes Craster's Keep. They keep going until they finally reach the special tree from Brance's dreams, the end of their journey. Of course, being tired, hungry and cold takes a toll. When they're attacked by living skeletons? Yeah, I don't really know. Well, Jojen unfortunately dies, but the rest of the party gets saved by this little witch girl. She leads them into a safe spot in the tree's roots. I'm not even sure if it's a hole, but let's roll with it. It's a hole. There they finally meet the entity responsible for everything, and what does he tell Bran? You will fly. So who's the Raven now? The Crow-Savage War. I want to talk about the conflict between the Crows and the Savages right after the Starks section because guess what? Jon Snow is kind of a Stark, but not fully. This is basically the only episode focusing on one side of the story, that being the Night's Watch, and honestly, you just gotta admire Game of Thrones. They made a single episode feel like a high-budget movie. Absolute chef's kiss. Okay, but what is happening during the war? So basically Castle Black is getting attacked from both sides, and the challengers that are about to face our favorite spot are Savages, mainly, Cannibals, Giants and Mammoths. mammoths. Yes, they even have mammoths. But on the other side, we have the indomitable human spirit. 100 crows versus a 100,000 man army. But to be honest, the crows really stand their ground, not willing to give up Castle Black at all. Okay, first let's talk Jon Snow, as he's basically the main character of this whole ordeal. Since recovering from Ygritte's arrows, he's been tormented by Alistair Thorne, this guy, who you might remember from the previous seasons. Practically everything Jon suggests either get twisted or ignored. They even had a trial for him to see what was he up to, as if he would betray them. Now Thorne might be a complete idiot, but he's no coward. During the siege, he willingly goes to the front lines to defend the castle. We also get some standout moments from these other characters. Gren and a few brothers hold the gate against the literal giant. Edison Tollett takes control of the forces on the wall and protects it from climbing savages. And as we mentioned, Alistair Thorne rallies the troops and leads the counterattack. Even with all that, manpower isn't enough, so the terrorists from the Night's Watch resort to full-on bombing the savages using explosive barrels. Okay, to be honest, the savages had it coming. The most important figure in the battle, Jon Snow of course. He takes control of the troops on the wall, instructs Gren to defend the gate, a crucial move, and later joins the counterattack inside Castle Black to fight off infiltrators. But no win comes without sacrifice, some good men die and Ygritte dies too. This isn't just tragic for Jon, but for us viewers as well. Yeah, you could argue it's poetic, considering she gets killed by the kid whose family and village got destroyed by her side, but still it's a gut punch. Jon loses his first love, possibly his last, and I have no idea if he's ever going to recover from it. Now, with nothing left to lose, Jon decides to take a gamble. He goes to talk to Mance Rayder to try to negotiate a deal to spare the remaining crows. Reasonable, right? Surprisingly, the meeting goes smoothly. I was tense watching it, but Mance is honestly just a pretty chill dude. They have a drink, mourn the dead, and have a real conversation. But of course, as we know Game of Thrones, it doesn't end clean. No decision, no deal, because the crazy heretic Baratheon makes his return. Stannis sets his eyes on the throne. So after getting crushed in his attempt to take King's Landing, Stannis knows that a person is only truly defeated when they give up. Well, he kinda gave up, but somehow he managed to pick himself back up, and after his and Davos' visit to the Iron Bank, he's managed to gather quite the army. And from the looks of it, he's got Mance Rayder on the ropes right now, all that while making the acquaintance of Jon Snow. Okay, I personally love scenes like this, when some of the most important characters or army leaders get into dramatic talks or quashes, but I don't think Stannis would stay long at Castle Black. With the Lannisters weekend, there's no better moment than now to make a move for the throne. Daenerys chillings. Okay, Daenerys does what Daenerys does. She frees some more slaves. Yoo-hoo! Never seen that one before, but things don't go exactly the way she wants. Her dragoons are in the team phase. They don't listen to their mama anymore and start doing bad stuff on their own, like going absolutely wild, burning things, people, chaos everywhere. Daenerys quickly finds out about their misbehavior and locks her spoiled children in a dungeon, leaving them in the dark. Oh, and she also learns about Jorah's deal to betray her to get back into King's Landing, so she kicks him out of the slave-freeing coup. The visual contrast of season 1 and the rest of the seasons. In season 1 of Game of Thrones, the colors are really bright, and I mean really bright. Sometimes I go back to grab a scene or a moment from season 1, and it almost feels like my eyes are burning. Even in the darker scenes, everything is still clearly visible. Sometimes it feels almost too bright. Then in the following seasons, the contrast gets darker and darker. Now, the logical explanation is probably something like, season 1 was a test for contrast, camera settings, lighting, etc. And later, they realized that when the theme is darker, the scenes feel more suspenseful and gripping. But you know we aren't going for the logical answer. The real reason might be the story itself. Season 1 is kind of calm, we meet the Starks, we meet other characters, we explore the world, some bad stuff happen, yeah, but overall it's pretty chill compared to what comes later. Then as the seasons go on, each one gets darker than the last, and that could be a direct reflection of the story. By season 4, it's so dark at times that I can't even get a proper screenshot for the thumbnail. In the previous video, I mentioned that I was hoping this season would be better than the last, meaning I was hoping season 4 would top season 3, and honestly I think it does. For me season 4 is a 10 out of 10. The best season so far. Almost every episode felt like a movie, and so much happens that it's even hard to cover it all. Love you guys, I'll see you in the next one.